Some of my American friends requested me to react on this content because it is in English. So let me try to share to you my thoughts about SAF 44, whether is it a victory or failure. Before I proceed, I would like to share to you the concept of Pyrrhic victory. And I am inviting you to learn the lessons of history because, as they said, when you fail to learn history, then you are bound to repeat it. Sometime in 280 BC, there was one king in Greece named Pyrrhus, and he wanted to emulate Alexander the Great in his campaigns. He brought about 25,000 of his troops to fight down south in his kingdom. He became victorious. However, he lost 7,500 men, the best of his troops, including a large number of his experienced officers. And for that reason, he was forced to go back to his kingdom and stop his adventures. And let me share to you what happened to Ferdinand Magellan on April 27, 1521. Magellan wanted to defeat a guy named Lapu-Lapu. Are you familiar with that guy? Dato Lapu-Lapu was the chieftain of Mactan. On the side of Magellan was Dato Sula and Raja Humabon. But believing that he can defeat Lapu-Lapu easily, he refused to collaborate with his friends Sula and Humabon. And so, Magellan and a select number of his troops waded through waters and attacked the island of Mactan. So what happened? They were easily mowed down by the arrows and bows from Lapu-Lapu's men. Angered by their initial losses, Magellan decided to set fire all the houses along the beaches. As a consequence, the enraged Mactan residents, even those who are not really part of the fighting, rushed to join the fray. And that was the reason why Magellan was defeated in Mactan. Collaboration, coordination. Remember that. So let me proceed with this video.
10 p.m., night of January
Not joining
24,
the blame game.
2015.
This is also
About 390 SAF commandos are on their way to an unfamiliar territory to carry out a classified mission. A mission which the SAF are the most capable of. The Special
Hunt and
Action
capture.
Force, or
They're
SAF,
capable of
is an
that.
elite unit of the Philippine National Police. The members were chosen among a number of participants who had undergone a tough selection procedure. The qualified members then received special and intense training to handle operations.
SAF training is actually based on Scout Ranger training. Do you know that? Before the SAF, there was the PC Ranger unit.
Such as raids, hostage rescue, and counterterrorism. Months before this mission, an intelligence report allegedly from the United States revealed that two of the most wanted
As he said, they received information from the United States. Let me say, the United States, who assisted in the training of the 84th SAC, was capable of gathering electronic intelligence, or ELINT, and also imagery. And those information are very critical in accomplishing a mission.
terrorists in several countries are currently hiding in the marshlands of Mamasapano, Maguindanao, Philippines. The objective of the
Near the
SAF
Liwasan
is
Marsh.
to infiltrate and capture terrorists Abdul Basit Usman in the
Abdul Basit Usman used to be part of the Moro Islamic Liberation Front's Special Operations Group. He was a bomber.
main target, one of FBI's most wanted terrorists, Zulkifli bin Hir, alias Marwan.
Malaysian.
Marwan is a Malaysian terrorist who specializes in bomb making. Together with his group, Marwan was involved
And Marwan was the one who trained some of the Maguindanaon terrorists. And in fact, I have facilitated the surrender of some of these bombers when I was battalion commander.
in a number of attacks and plots in Southeast Asia. This mission, however, was not new to the SAF. Efforts to capture Marwan can be dated back to 2010, wherein 9 consecutive attempts have been made, but none were successful. Most missions were aborted, and in some cases, Marwan was able to escape.
Keep on trying.
But this time, officials responsible of the operation were confident that the outcome would be different. With this confidence in mind, the SAF commandos prepares as they get closer to the site to carry out
Nice
the
animation.
mission.
Very
A
good.
mission that will forever be remembered
I don't know if this is an example of Arma 3. Nice animation, yeah?
by Filipinos. A mission named Oplan Exodus.
The location of Marwan was actually in Barangay Pinsandawan. You have to cross that bridge, and a few kilometers away, the hut where Marwan stayed was located. And the place was surrounded by houses of different armed groups, including the More Islamic Liberation Front, 118 Base Command, the Bangsamoro Islamic Freedom Fighters under Karyalan and Bongos faction. All of them are there because it is within the Ligawasan Marsh. They can access the escape routes to different places from Mamasapano. What's this, Mahindra? I think this is the Mahindra vehicle, back to back.
Divided as special action companies, the SAF commandos will follow a planned route and will position at assigned locations on the
In planning for operations, it is very important to complete the procedure. For example, we have the so-called troop leading procedure, wherein one of the steps is to conduct reconnaissance. And that means you have to walk through that same terrain. We have leaders recon, we have map recon, and we have ground reconnaissance. And since the Philippine National Police has not been in this area, and they are not really familiar with the terrain in the area. And when I say terrain, it includes human terrain. You must know the dynamics of the people in the area, who is staying here. Is it BIFF? Is it MILF? Is this an armed group? What are the linkages? You have to understand all these dynamics because it will affect your mission. Remember that.
map. The 84th SAC or Seaborne, which is composed of 41 commandos, is the team assigned to capture Marwan and Usman. They will be the first one to advance and will control the movement of other SACs. Just behind Seaborne, the 55th SAC, composed of 36 commandos, will become the blocking force, which will serve as the primary support and security for Seaborne. The remaining SACs, which are composed of more than 300 SAF commandos, will serve as support groups, securing the exits of both SACs. Meanwhile, the 43rd SAC will position along the drop-off point, securing both ends of the highway. The plan was estimated to be done at a specific time. However, this was unlikely, as the terrain leading to the targets was a huge obstacle for the commandos. The marshland was covered with vast areas of cornfields and deep rivers.
That is the importance of ground recon. You have to determine the fordable areas. Which part can be crossed, maybe waist deep water, it's okay.
Moreover, it was not their territory. Throughout the marshland, several armed groups are situated at certain areas, the largest of which are the BIFF and the MILF. The BIFF is a militant organization based in Mindanao, seeking to have an independent Islamic state for the Muslim minority. Meanwhile, the MILF, also a group in Mindanao, is an organization which seeks to separate from the central government and have an autonomous region for the Moro people. Fortunately, the government and the MILF are currently in an ongoing peace talks, prohibiting both parties from doing aggressive actions.
The peace talks started sometime in 1997. There was the GRP MILF ceasefire agreement in 1997, and I was there fighting on the ground in Maguindanao during the time that these talks between the government and the MILF started. I was there.
Basically, a ceasefire. However, due to the mission being classified, the MILF were not informed of the operation.
There is a framework agreement on the Bangsamoro, and for that reason, the government and MILF established the ceasefire mechanisms. The state forces are duty-bound to follow the peace agreement. We have to ask permission, okay? In every operations, remember, there is a so-called tactical deception, disinformation, and shaping operations. And being the battle space commander, the Philippine Army has a great influence over the happenings in his area of operations. Remember that.
At about 11 p.m. of January 24, Oplan Exodus commenced.
They did not tell the MILF, and they also did not tell the Philippine Army. It was only when the fighting started, they're using the term called time on target, TOT. By the time that they executed the mission, that's the time also that they informed through text that, sir, we are already here. We are already here conducting an operation within your AO. That's it. By the way, AO, Area of Operations, is a geographical area where a unit is authorized to conduct operations. In the military, if this is my area, Mamasapano, I am authorized to conduct operations within this area. Anybody who comes inside should coordinate with me. That is a doctrine.
The 41 Commandos of Seabourn, led by Superintendent Raymond Train, advances. The remaining special action companies are waiting for the right time to depart, as their movements dependent on the movement of Seabourn. However, due to an unfamiliar terrain and the strong currents of the rivers, Seabourn did minor changes to the planned route. This caused a delay in the departure of the 55th SAC and the remaining support groups.
As we say in the military, if you plan, always plan for the worst. And in planning, you have to consider contingencies. Remember this. PACE. P. Primary. Primary plan. Next, alternate. C. Contingency. E. Emergency. So every time you plan, you should have PACE. Remember that. If you're not familiar with the terrain, you will end up wading through neck-deep water. I experienced that.
Marwan's hut was covered with improvised traps. Meanwhile, hidden from sight, Abdul Basit Usman escapes.
He died a few months later.
Unfortunately, the gunshots awoke the armed groups in the area.
They have a culture of, we call it pintakasi. What is pintakasi? It's like swarming techniques among the Moros. If someone is harming their relatives, then they have to help each other. And this time, they know that someone intruded into their community. They have to protect their family members. And that's the reason why this incident happened. Remember what I said about Magellan? When he started setting fire on the houses, people swarmed on them, attacked them from all directions. It is the same here. You really have to study the culture of the people. Good animation. Marwan's dead.
Seaborn had successfully neutralized one of the world's most dangerous men.
That
Without
is why
delay,
they said
they took
it
a
is
DNA
a
sample,
victory for them.
and a picture was taken. A SAF commando then sent a text message to the command saying, Mike 1, bingo, which
And I'm really deeply concerned about the use of cell phones for combat operations. In TCP operations, the commander or the operations officer manning the TCP should have an active control over the troops. It means they have to communicate using tactical radios. No cell phones.
meant that the target was neutralized. Triumph was felt among the commandos outside as they've heard the word bingo. But that triumph won't last. As Seaborn attempts to unite with the 55th SAC for the exit, they were already surrounded. Meanwhile, the 55th SAC, which was delayed for hours, attempts to reach their designated waypoint.
This is the real, this is the real bridge. Look at the bridge when I came there. This one. That's the real bridge. And he was able to portray the bridge in his animation. Very good. Like this.
They were navigating through the cornfields of Barangay Tucanalipaw. They heard men shouting around the area.
And remember, in a Muslim community, people would be awake by about 4 o'clock. Why? It's prayer time. Remember that. It should be part of the plan.
Immediately, they formed a defensive perimeter. Across the river, they saw MILF members gathering near the bridge. The 55th SAC waited. Their only cover was the cornfield and the darkness. But not for long. As dawn breaks, the 77 commandos of the 55th SAC and Seaborn are to be surrounded by over 1,000 combined members.
I don't think there are 1,000 armed groups in Mamasapano. Maybe around 200, yes, but definitely not 1,000.
Of the MILF, BIFF, and other private armed groups. At the location of Seaborn, it was a fight for survival. Thinking they were unmatched by the unknown number of armed groups shooting at them, they decided to retreat to the river and took a different exit route to avoid the enemies. But then again, they got surrounded. During this time, the SAF commandos of the 55th SAC and Seaborn continuously called for reinforcements. This led the remaining special action companies to advance, but then eventually retreated as they were met with gunfire. At the
people
same
are
time,
dying,
the
you
situation
have
reached
to
Staff
come and
Director
rescue
Getulio
your
Peñas Jr.,
fellow
the
warriors.
commander who
Remember
oversees
that.
the
Walang
operation.
iwanan. Nobody left behind.
At about 6 a.m., Peña sends a message to the Army 6th Infantry Division commander, informing him about the operation.
Time on target.
However, according to the commander, he did receive a message, but it did not mention the need for reinforcements. Fortunately, the SAD commander, Major General Pangilinan, sent out a reinforcement team after details of the ongoing firefight have circulated. Moreover, Pangilinan orders the Brigade General of the AFP to notify the MILF of the situation, which again was in an ongoing peace talks with the
He was referring to General Galvez, who was part of the CCCH, Coordinating Committee on the Cessation of Hostilities. The function of the CCCH is to facilitate the ceasefire when there is an encounter between the state forces and the Moro Islamic Liberation Front. It is part of the peace agreement.
government. At about 8:30 a.m., the army arrived. According to the army, they saw the remaining SAF commandos just sitting on the highway. The army then asked for coordinates from two SAF commanders to locate the 55th SAC in Seabourn. Unfortunately, they don't know.
If you are operating with another units and you are part of the QRF or maybe the on standby troops, the reserve, you have to maintain a log about the location of the friendly forces. You have to be aware where they are going, if there are changes to their locations, because in case you are needed to help them, then you know where to go. Remember that.
After figuring out the location, the army advances. But the remaining staff members reportedly refused to go with them. According to a report, there was no command telling the staff what to do.
So they wanted the army to rescue the beleaguered members of the 55th SAC and the 84th SAC. There was a disagreement why the 300 reserve elements do not want to help their comrades. Why? That was left unanswered, and it is not justifiable that they will just stay and secure the highway. Why? What's the reason? And that was actually part of the discussions during the Senate hearing.
10 a.m., the army received a call from Seabourn, informing them that they are on a hill in Barangay Tucanalipaw, surrounded by the MILF. AFP Chief of Staff General Katapang ordered his men to not engage the MILF because they don't want to endanger the ongoing peace process.
Unless the MILF will fire first, then we also have to defend ourselves. That's the context in that statement.
The army then proceeded to extract them. But along the way, they were also met with gunfire and forced them to retaliate.
Sad story. Unfortunately, the armored vehicles could not come in this area because it's a marshy terrain and the armored vehicles could not navigate through this terrain. All the members of the 55th SAC died except one, Chris Lalan, who escaped by himself and rejoined his troops, I think, a day after.
Until the army decided to deploy white phosphorus at about 5:30 p.m.
By this time, the 62nd Division Reconnaissance Company was already there.
The white phosphorus are used for cover and as markers for the artillery team to calculate their location, minimizing the risk of a friendly fire. As the armed groups saw the white phosphorus, at about 6 p.m., the firefight stopped.
The reality behind the withdrawal of the Moro Islamic Liberation Front and Bangsamoro Islamic Freedom Fighters was the presence of the JPST, General Galvez, and his counterparts from the Moro Islamic Liberation Front, all members of the Coordinating Committee on the Cessation of Hostilities were already in Mamasapano facilitating the ceasefire. That is why they were forced to withdraw, because some of the senior commanders had already intervened. The 84th SAC was actually rescued by the elements of the 62nd Division Reconnaissance Company. They were the ones who brought some of the casualties and helped them carry some of the firearms and led them towards the location of the friendly troops. That's the reality behind there. Very sad. Some of them are Scout Rangers. Ranger Tabdi, Ranger Tria, the only survivor. Okay, so that's the story about the Special Action Force. No blame game here. I just wanted to put some context on the story. It was a sad day for all of us. I was there sometime in February, in the first week of February, to talk to the people, and it was during the visit of the Chief of Staff, Armed Forces of the Philippines, where I accompanied him right there in Tucan, Nalipaw. And so I was able to interact with the people, talk with the children, as seen in this photo. Winning in the fight in the Legawasan March is not about fighting alone. It is not about killing all the insurgents alone. We need to change the lives of the people for the better. We need to deliver essential services. We need to have more children attending schools. We need to counter the narratives of the violent extremists. And it is through the help of the religious leaders and the traditional leaders in the community. I hope you learned something from this video. It is not a blame game. It is my advocacy that we must help each other through bayanihan spirit so that we will emerge victorious all the time. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.